as Lions fans, we do feel like we're getting a little spoiled here with Ben Johnson. It's so good that we don't want it to end, and we don't want him to leave after this season. But as we head into the Packers game, a former offensive mind legend comes out and says that he as in Ben Johnson is doing the best job in the league when it comes to offense right now this season. So that guy I'm talking about is none other than Mike Martz, who led, just as a reminder of how good his Rams teams were. He led the 99, 2000, and 2000 Rams teams. That's when they were the greatest show on turf. That's when they had Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk, Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Azahir Hakeem. Remember, he came to the Lions. He came to the Lions in 2002. So right after that record-setting 98 to 2001 season, greatest show on turf, we get him. And that was part of our just problem. We just added like these big names. Just, we'll just add this sweet wide receiver. He didn't do anything in Detroit. But with the Rams, they're outstanding. So just for some perspective on Martz and what these guys did, in 99, 2000, and 2001, they were out of control. So, for example, in 2000, they had 63 offensive touchdowns, which was 5 more than the 98 Vikings. If you remember the 98 Vikings, Randy Moss just throwing it up, touchdown after touchdown. They had 5 more than them, and they only had 4 less than the 2007 Patriots, which were the all-time, like, that single season will go down in history as like one of the greatest offensive seasons with Randy Moss, Tom Brady. But they did it in 99, 2000, and 2001. They did it 3 years in a row. So Mike Martz knows what he's talking about, knows offense, knows it when he sees it. For some perspective, the Lions have 52 offensive touchdowns this year, which is, 10-ish off the pace of what the Rams did in 2000. So the Lions are having an incredible offensive season. We know that. So here's what Mike Martz had to say. He said that Ben Johnson has such a good feel for play calling. And I love that. We'll get back to that in a second. I think right now he's doing the best job in the league, bar none, is what Martz said. He incorporates the run, not just the run, but the variation of the run downhill. They're not just out of shotgun or read option and all that stuff. They can run the power plays, zone plays, in and out, pitches. They're creative. The offensive line is one of the better ones in the league in terms of rushing the football. So I want to go back to what he said right here. He just he has a good feel for play calling. And I think of, as Lions fans, as we head into this big game against the Packers, it's nice having an offensive coordinator where you just feel like we're one step ahead. In the past, it seemed so predictable. It always seemed predictable. I very rarely this year, if at all, have I thought, oh my gosh, what are we doing? Where it's like run, pass, or pass. You just get into these ruts. We haven't had that. It's so creative. And when we run it, it's never just, here you go, let's just run it. It's with a purpose. It's an outside zone. It's in shotgun, but we're bringing a guy in motion. It's always affecting the eyes. And that's what I've always said when the jet sweep came out a few years ago. Do that every single play, because you cannot help it as a defender that motion across affects you. And so what does Ben Johnson do? He does it almost every play, some sort of a jet motion. You got Amon-Ra, who's going to come across, and is he going to block? Is he going to go out in a pass? Is he going to block in the line of scrimmage? There's so many things that Ben Johnson does. So it's so creative, and it's so good for our offense, because we do have good skill players. We do have a good offensive line, but it doesn't matter unless you put it all together and have a good feel for play calling. And then you combine that with Jared Goff and his ability, and the credit goes to Goff, credit goes to Ben Johnson, to find what works. And what does Goff love? He loves, yes, being in shotgun, but he loves taking out of center, from under center, that play action where you've got the guard coming out, looks like a run action, but it's a pass. And Goff has the ability, and this is harder than we realize, to be hard play action and then whip your head around and read what's going on in the field and deliver a pass. He's been doing so well at that. So Mike Martz absolutely loves what we're doing. Martz went on to say a couple other things too. We'll get to that here. He said that I think they can be NFC champions with this offense. So he says, are they good enough to get to the Super Bowl? And we got to get into the playoffs. We all realize that first. But are they good enough to get to the Super Bowl? I don't think their defense is good enough. But this is a team that's clearly one of the top 5 or 6 in the league right now. So as we enter this final week, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, but you also want to say, man, I get it. I get that our defense isn't great, but once in a while, our defense really turns it on. Combine that with a good offense. Look, Mike Martz is saying it. Come on, stop it. But NFC Championship, it's not that crazy. We got to get in. We just got to get in. Now, we know we need help and we got to beat the Packers. So it's a long way to go, but we put ourselves in a position thanks to our offense. Our defense has been up and down all year, but our offense has been one of the tops in the league. So to hear a offensive legend, because remember in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was an evolution in the game, but Mike Martz was the first really, I don't say the first, but he was one of the people that was vertical, fast. Things were open, spread you out a little bit. Wasn't super spread out, but you were able to run the ball. And that's what the thing with him was. Didn't it feel like he always had a good feel for the game? So you were running it with Marshall Faulk. You were not just air raid all day long. You were Marshall Faulk was in there, Isaac Bruce, and they had great players, but those great players formed because you had a great offensive coordinator in Mike Martz. So to hear Mike Martz look out at Ben Johnson's like, this guy's got a feel for it. He's got a feel for play calling. And that's something that's kind of been on the tip of my tongue all year. It's like, what is this about this guy, Ben Johnson? Creative plays, guys are open, everything's with a purpose, but it's a feel for the game and it's a feel for play calling. And the last thing I love about Ben Johnson is, and every team does this, but he's doing it at such a high level, is you take your shots when you have an opportunity. When you're at midfield or at the 40 going in, you have two options. You can keep going, push it down there, get inside the red zone. And what happens inside the red zone is odds are and percentages show you're going to stall out because the field shrinks. It's hard to pass. It's hard to run. It's a numbers game. So he takes advantage of what the analytics say, and that is there's more open space and more open field. Take our shots for a touchdown. Let's score touchdowns versus what does a 3-yard run to get a first down do when we can take a shot and try to score when we're in field goal range already? Let's go to the end zone. I've always hated to see teams just slugging it out, trying to get into the end zone 5 yards at a time, and ultimately you stall out. The field's more open. Go for it. Take a shot. Try to score from further out. So Ben Johnson is going to be dialed in for this Packers game. We know that. We got to hope our defense shows up and we get our defense that's just a good, solid defense and one that doesn't just get run off the field, because you know they're going to try to run the ball against us. So defense stand up and offense will be ready to go. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll check all of you out on the next one. See ya.